Today we're going to be installing the rear tow arms that we got from Part Shop Max. Again, we're going to be deleting the stock buckets for the stock springs since we went true coilovers in the rear. That's something I recommend if you're going to be building like a drift car or a race car. It just makes it a lot simpler, and it removes the unwanted arm. It's just easier, you know. And then you replace the rear arm for the Part Shop Max arm or any other arm that you like. So if you guys didn't see the other video where I was working on Louis' Subaru, there was also included in there a box opening for the new arms, which are right here. So like I said on the other video, I'm really obsessed with Part Shop Max's parts right now. They just make everything just looks amazing, you know? Zinc coated, and these things look extremely durable when you compare them to other brands that are a little less expensive. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the other companies' stuff works well too, but I mean, just look at, you know, the girth of this. It's insane. I'm sure it'll take the beating that we're going to be giving it too, so I'm excited for that. But first thing we got to do, we got to get this car off the trailer so we can lift it up and get those arms out of the way, install these new ones. Alright, so like I said, the plan for today is going to be removing the rear arms and installing the new ones. Rearranging the seat from Wendy's sitting position, since she was the last driver for the last event with Sparkle Motion. It was like an all-girls drift event. We're going to readjust the seat to where it's for my height. You can tell she's really close to the steering wheel, and she's a little higher than I would sit. It's not bad, it's just 4 bolts and I can readjust it. And then we're also going to change out the coil pack that's broken on cylinder 1. So that's pretty much the plan for today. Hopefully we can get everything done, dialed in, and if we have some time, we might even move the battery from its stock location, which is right there in that corner, to right here behind the passengers. Only because of the fact that, you know, it's going to clean up the engine bay a little bit. I can probably cut some of that metal out, and then also just having it back here, I don't know, weight distribution because race car, I guess. Oh, and then check out these little things that I installed, right? So this whole little tonneau cover, I wasn't even planning on running it, but because I found these little quick releases on, I think it was Amazon, just pop all 4 of them, and this whole piece comes off, so we have access to the back seat area behind the passengers. Maybe later on we can clean up some of that wiring, because a lot of this wiring loom, besides the one that goes into the back for the tail lights and the fuel pump, a lot of these plugs aren't used anymore, so we can clean up the wiring harness. And then maybe, hopefully soon, we can get some tubing so that we can run the ones for the A-pillar, and then maybe make some door bars on it too. I mean, gonna have to get rid of that carpet, which I didn't want to, but you know, like I said, it's a race car, so it really doesn't matter. All right, so we're gonna start by removing the rear wheel. And so the goal is going to be to take this bad boy off. Has a bolt holding it in the back, bolt in the front. Looks to be about a 17 millimeter. So let's go grab it. So we have our 17 millimeter on our breaker bar and a 17 millimeter wrench on the other side. Oh yeah, and it comes off like butter. Let's loosen the back side. So the bolt in the back turns out to be a 17 millimeter on the rear side and the 19 millimeter on the front side. We just loosen it up, pop it all off. Now this is going to be one of those eccentric bolts that you use to adjust camber or toe in and toe out, which is actually what I was using to make my adjustments. But now that we have this new arm, we won't be needing this anymore. So here we have the comparison. Stock spring bucket. It's literally called the spring bucket because this is where your stock spring would sit. And like I said, we got rid of the shock and spring setup to where they were separated. And we went with a single coil, or whatever this piece is called. True coilover, I believe it's called. So we don't need this anymore. We're gonna replace it with this from Parts Shop Max. So the next step is going to be to kind of try to adjust this piece so that the whole overall length matches the same length as the stock piece. We do that so that it can go back into the car as easy as it can, as the old one came out. And then from there, you have all these pieces to make adjustments. You can make it longer from up here by turning this. You can make it longer from down here by turning this piece. And these two locking nuts will just hold everything in place. Depending on what settings you need, you can adjust it from here, and it's pretty much almost unlimited. So we're going to bring this one down just a bit, and we're going to bring this one in just a bit, and try and match it up to your stock one. Looks like we need to come out some more. And all we're doing is trying to align the stock holes with the holes on the new arm. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you can get it as close as you can, see how we're still a bit off here? The closer you can get it, the easier it's going to be for you to make sure that it goes in just like the stock one did without having to go out and get an alignment right away. But I mean, you still will require to get an alignment, but you're trying your best not to. That's about better. Maybe come out just a tiny bit more, maybe like a half a spin, and then we'll use the lock nuts to lock it in place, and it should be good to go. So now that you have it adjusted the way you want it, all you're going to do is you're going to take your bolts, or if you bought the bolt kit that comes with it, which I didn't, I completely forgot to get it. If you got the bolt kit, you put in the new bolts. If not, then you just grab your stock stuff and throw it on there too. So we're going to be installing the spindle side first, and all we're going to do is align it with our bolt holes. And just hand tighten the nut onto it so that we can adjust and install the other side. So you're also going to need these spacers that came with the rear spherical bearing, and you'll see why in a minute. So these little spacers are actually going to go in your spherical bearing, one on each side, so that it attaches to your subframe without having any weird movement. Just like that. You put your bolt back in. And in my case, it's an eccentric bolt, so I have to put the little eccentric piece back on there. Take your nut and just hand tighten that one too. Okay, go ahead and take it off. So we're going to take our 17 millimeters and tighten the front bolt again, the one that goes to the spindle. See, another cool thing about this setup is that once you actually have everything bolted in, you don't have to remove any of this hardware to make any adjustments, because all the adjustments are right here. Now that we adjusted everything to where we think it's supposed to be before we get an alignment, we're going to tighten up this Allen bolt, which is going to hold everything in place. We're going to tighten this up, the lock nuts up, to make sure everything's in place. And then they also have this extra locking feature right here, 13 millimeter bolt with a nut that we also get to tighten up. And this just makes sure that all your settings, once you're dialed in, are held in place without moving or, you know, getting unadjusted while you're driving the car. It's like 2, 3, 4 types of security to keep your settings where you want them. And that's it. That's how you install these control arms. We're going to move on to the other side, and it's pretty much the same as this side.